Hello, Ask George, England finally out edition. We're nearly there.
Hmm.
Right, George, good evening or good morning where you are.
Ah,
Jack Rule asks, are England just massive physics fans and out to prove Einstein's insanity theory?
yeah, that's one of the things I've always thought that struck me about Liam Livingstone, his passion for physics. I presume that is a reference to the fact that they played the same team
They've been unchanged 3 games in a row, I suspect.
and 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 chased again, despite the fact that they keep losing, doing these things. I thought they got the toss right today. I thought batting did ease. Um, but you've got to get to that point. And it was hot in the day, but they do play cricket in hot countries a lot. And I think people have been a bit disingenuous about what happened in Mumbai. In Mumbai and Delhi, the air pollution is appalling. It's it's awful, and it makes it very difficult to breathe. Delhi is something else. So we shouldn't be embarrassed about telling the truth and saying these things. So England's problems in Mumbai, I think, were partly about the temperature was hot, but I've known it be literally 12 degrees hotter in Australia. It was humid, but I've known it be a whole lot hotter, more humid in Sri Lanka. But the air pollution is something else, yeah. But I'll be told that I'm making excuses for England if I say that, won't I? But I took a reading actually on my phone when we were in Delhi. There's an air index. I think it's 1 to 500, and it was 500. You know, it's not an ideal place to be breathing, let alone playing sport. So anyway, I thought they got the toss right. Did they get the team right? I mean, you can argue for some of the bowlers, but most of them made pretty persuasive cases for being dropped. And then there's Harry Brook. I would have picked him one way or another, but he hasn't had that amazing an ODI career. Let's not pretend that one person is going to solve all the problems with this English side.
Well, on that note, Sushant asks, surely next game it's Atkinson for Wood and Brook for Bairstow or Root.
Say it again. Sorry, say it again.
He
Atkinson for
suggests
Wood.
Atkinson for
Yeah.
Wood and Brook for Bairstow or Root. I mean, I think you'd expect a change of some description, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
what?
you would. But I'll tell you something about Atkinson's at the start of his career, so fair play to him up to a point. He's a pretty sharp bowler. He's not as quick as Wood, but he hasn't got much of a slow ball. I do find it troubling that Mark Wood is just about into his 10th year as an international cricketer and he's 33 years old and he doesn't have a slow ball. I find it a bit weird. But why aren't they making him work on one? Honestly, why? I don't understand.
He talked about it a couple
He's
of years ago, didn't he?
he's brilliant. Yeah. He's the quickest bowler I think England have ever produced. But the quick bowlers have slow balls. And so must he.
Hmm.
And why has that not happened? I genuinely don't know the answer. It's a question, I guess,
Hmm.
to ask.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess he's relied on, I don't know, other variations, isn't he?
Well, I don't think
Variation,
they're challenged
well, I guess
enough.
variation of
It's
length is what I mean. But yeah, I can't disagree.
yes,
I know he's
yeah,
been
yeah.
asked about
Look,
it before, hasn't
he is very very quick, but the problem with pace is that you get any width at all,
he? Hmm.
um, and good players feast on it, particularly if they can ready themselves. But it's not just I think there's been a lack of challenging questions asked within this squad for quite a long time. Um, and no one has improved. No one is improving in this environment. I think you've probably got to ask why that is as well. And I think there are quite a lot of reasons. I'm definitely not just saying blame Matthew Mott, but
Hmm.
I do
But
think that the players aren't being challenged enough.
on that, Mike, I was thinking a good question is everyone's been saying this to the end for this team, but
Mhm.
but if they've all been given new contracts, who exactly is moving on? Or rather, who exactly
God,
will they be moving on from?
every day that goes by, those contracts look more of a I'm trying to think of a polite way to say it, but I can't. Yeah, I mean, why do that at that stage? Yeah, so they're going to have squandered quite a lot of money, I expect, um, on players who are increasingly looking as if they're a bit past it. But I don't know. I mean, does the management have the bottle to drop big name players? I mean, to be fair, when people have tried to move on from players in the past, and let's include Anderson and Broad, Anderson and Broad have come back well because they're champion players, but also there's been quite a backlash. I don't think people are particularly, if England had swapped Brook for Bairstow today and had this result, people would be championing Bairstow today, just in the same way that I get quite a lot of messages saying, why isn't Jason Roy there? And Jason Roy, I really am a big Jason Roy fan. I think he was fantastic in 2019. And I think I said before, I think he's underrated by England supporters. But by God, he earned his dropping. He isn't what he was. And that's what we've got with the whole of this England team. They haven't revived, refreshed. They've just got older. They didn't get better. You don't get better unless you work on it. Just get older. And that's what's happened. And English cricket has a habit of patting itself on the back and telling itself how well it's done after it's had a bit of success. And I'm afraid that's what it's done this time. It was a great side who did unprecedented things for English cricket. And, they deserve to be remembered very fondly, but they've stayed too long. They've got old.
I guess to follow on from
brutal.
That. Yeah, and to follow on, to be honest, from that really, Ramakant asks, I like this question. When other teams are able to manage multiple formats, why do England seem to go extreme with focus on one when the other goes disastrously badly? Do you get that? Does that make sense?
Yes, I did. No, I think it's a very
good
fair
question.
And one I've asked myself a fair bit of late. And I don't have straightforward answers. I mean, to be fair to England, they were world champions. I suppose they still are, just about, in the two limited overs formats right now. First men's team to do that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there was I could say that in something like 2011 or 12, they were very close to being number one in all three formats. It didn't happen. They were number one in two and missed the other one by a month or something. But the general point he makes is right, and I think it's actually because they play so much cricket, and then people are rested. I mean, again and again, it will come down to the same thing. The onus is on money rather than performance. And the way to change that is to be a bit more sophisticated about the central contracts, actually, and accept that players are going to, go and play some white ball, and that's fine because you could get the franchises to pay for them, and then you say, "Well, I want you to play for England," but and unless you play these games, then you're not going to be considered for selection. And call the players bluff. Call the players bluff. I'd be interested how many of them have done their IPL values a lot of good in these last few weeks. But go back on that, for example, Ben Stokes should have had his operation in March, shouldn't he? Should have had his operation after the New Zealand series, when he was clearly unfit. I mean, if he had been able to bowl in that test in, Lord, what was the second test? I can't even remember.
Was it Wellington? It was Wellington, wasn't it?
Right. Yes. Sorry, I'm really tired. I should explain. It's 1:45. He could have had well, if he'd been able to bowl then, England might have won that test. And if he'd had his operation then, maybe he'd have been fit for the Ashes. And as it was, England went into the Ashes unprepared, the 2-0 down before you thought about it. And no one is making the players do any of the hard yards until it's a bit too late, I think. I don't know. There's not much point having management of the England side and managing directors. It's just an absolute waste of time. I don't think they're strong enough to stand up to the players.
I guess the other point,
waste of money.
I guess the other point on the extremities of England's various formats is that if you were to look back at certainly the last 8 years. Well, if you look, I guess if you look back at the white ball reset and the red ball reset, they both stem. They're both reactive, aren't they? They're both reacting to
Yes.
pretty grim nadirs. Like,
And you'll see that happen now as well. I
yeah,
could guarantee to you, you'll see the domestic schedule change so that 50 over cricket has more of a priority. To be fair, Ashley Giles was going to do that before he was sacked anyway.
So, very lastly, and this is sort of looking forward to, I don't know if it's tongue in cheek at all, but curiosity asks, will all this grief for England be wiped out with the unimaginable happiness in the new year with a Test series in India?
Yeah. I mean, right now that doesn't. Yeah, it's hard to be very optimistic, isn't it, about that? But who knows? You know, this Test side has played some really fun cricket and done some unlikely things. Again, though, I'm sorry to be that guy. You know, England haven't won a Test series this year. I know they've played some brilliant cricket and been fun, but they haven't actually won. I do think the English cricket needs to just take a step back and you know, stop telling itself how good it is. I hate to say that really, because there's so much good going on and has been going on, but you know, they've explained away the poor ODI results in the last few years because they've been like, oh, we're having to look at a young team or whatever. And actually they came into this World Cup and I don't think any of us predicted that it would be like this, but you know, you could look at my previews. I did say it was a bridge too far. I did say they should have revived and renewed. I did say they were an old side. And this hadn't been their priority. And one of the good things about international cricket is it slaps you in the face fantastically hard if you don't respect it. And I wouldn't say they haven't respected it exactly, but they haven't prioritized the format, have they? And yeah, I think a 5-test series in India, by the way, is far too long for this England side. I mean, I was on that 2012 tour when they won. I think it was 4 tests, though. And it seems like a miracle. It seems like a miracle. What are the chances? What are the chances of that happening now? Who are going to take all that? Who's going to bowl India out twice? No, genuinely, tell me.
In the fifth test.
Just,
I mean,
just do it.
Who's
Just
still
do it
standing?
once. Well, yeah. Well, there's that as well. But yeah, I don't know that it's a great series for Test cricket. To be honest, I think it's too long. I think 3 tests would be fine. But that's another thing entirely. Maybe, you know, they'll surprise us all and make me eat my words, and I very much hope so. I'd be delighted to do that. But yeah, this has been a chastening few weeks for English cricket, and there are no doubt lessons to learn, but they're going to have to be brave enough to learn them, and it is going to involve the management sometimes telling the players things they don't want to do, and I think it is a bit cozy at that level. I don't see a lot of that happening. I mean, unless you're David Willey. Everyone else, I think that I absolutely think it's important that the environment is benevolent and supportive, but that doesn't mean it's not challenging. And to be honest, there's all sorts of things that have been a bit odd on this tour. The work-play balance, don't know, but you know, they have 4 clear days between games plus a travel day. They take 2 days off when they get anywhere, and then they work hard as hell. They do 2 days out, they work hard. But then the day before the game, they have a slightly lesser session. So you basically get 1 day of training a week. Now, I don't know that, you know, when you come on an international tour like this, you want to be doing a whole lot of training. You know, it's probably too late for Mark Wood to learn a slower ball or Gus Atkinson or whatever. But, you know, you probably need to have learned those skills in county cricket, which is difficult for, say, Gus Atkinson, who had only played, 2 50 over list A games in his career before playing for England. But you don't want to be in a situation where you're learning skills on the international tour. Having said that, I don't know. Are they getting the balance right? Let's look at the results. It's not working great, is it?